Jesus. He came to love. Oh, I hear my grandma coming in the room. Heal and forgive. God, we thank you. Happy Resurrection Sunday. Lord, I thank you. He got up just for me. He took what he didn't deserve so I wouldn't have to. Lord, I thank you. Lord, I thank you. We're going to get into this thing. I promise I would not be before you too long. And I know most of y'all might just come in on Easter Sunday, Mother's Day, and New Year's. So since I have you here, I'm going to go ahead and drop this thing down for you. Break it on down. All right. For those that I may not see again until maybe Mother's Day or Christmas, happy Easter. We know a lot of times people come in for Easter and they want to hear the story, the Passion of Christ, what happened. And most preachers, we tend to take it from beginning to the end when the stone is rolled away. But I want to take you down a timeline that may have never been focused on before. Got my attention. And so I had to sit there for a little while, digging Keith. I have a couple of scriptures for you today. And I'm going to start with John 19:17. And we're going to come from the New International Version. I tend to come from this version, so it's easier for my younger members, the younger saints, to understand because it speaks it in their language. John 19:17. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is Golgotha. We also call it Calvary. Luke 23:33. When they came to the place called the skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. John 19:30. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Matthew 27:59-60. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. John 20:1. Early on the first day of the week, she, Mary Magdalene, saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen. The angel said to the women, he is not here. He has risen just as he said. John 3:16. I want to read this collectively. For God so loved the world that he gave his only, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. My subject and text is coming from this place today, Galatians 2:20. I have been crucified with Christ, and I, Tanya, no longer lives, but Christ lives in me. My subject for today is crucified before resurrection. And my theme is, it is necessary. Put your hands together. Crucified before resurrection. promise you I'm not going to worry your patience. But I just want to talk to you a little bit, because a lot of times we think Easter is all about Jesus suffering and being whipped and mocked and spit on and dying on the cross and carrying a cross. We think it's all about that, but how can we relate that story to our own personal life? There is no story in the Bible that we can't relate to. And in 2026, we're living in a world that feels so heavy. People are carrying more pressure. We're carrying anxiety. We're carrying emotional weight more than we ever have in our lives. We are watching our culture and our country wrestle with their identities. We have families fighting to stay together. Our finances are stretched thin. Our mental health is all over the place, and our hearts are worn out and weary because of the constant change that we face from day to day. Somebody look at your neighbor and say, you're carrying your cross. Many are asking, how do I rise when life keeps knocking me down? How do I rebuild when so much has been buried? How do I move forward when I feel stuck between what was and what is to be? But if we take a moment to fully understand the story of Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, we would then be able to comprehend how his story compares to our daily lives. See, before Jesus ever walked out the tomb, and before the stone was ever rolled away, before resurrection power ever shook the earth, Jesus had to carry his cross. He had to be crucified. He had to die. He had to be buried. He had to let the old be laid down so his assignment and his purpose could be revealed. I know it didn't feel good to be whipped and criticized and abused, but how many know that everything that Jesus went through, it was necessary? Jesus shows us that you cannot skip the cross and go straight to the crown. You cannot get elevation without the burial. And you can't have a burial if you continue to hold on and try to let live what God already told you had to die. No death, no burial. No burial, no resurrection. Many of us, we want the resurrection, but we don't want the surrender. We want a new life, but we don't want to let go of the old one. We want transformation, but we don't want to get crucified. But before Jesus rose, he had to release. Before he conquered death, he had to surrender to death. Before he stood in glory, he had to lay himself down in obedience. Some things in your life has got to die so God can raise you up. Those habits have to be crucified. Those old relationships have got to be buried. Those mindsets have got to be surrendered. And those fears that you have got to be nailed to the cross. Because you can't rise in 2026 holding on to what God already told you to release in 2025. You can't step into resurrection power or walk into your new life dragging the weight of that old one. How many know it's time for a life change? It's time for some things to die. Somebody tell yourself it's time to get up. Before we get too far, I want to kind of break down this timeline, because as I was reading the story, and I've heard it all my life, but there was a divine timeline that God himself orchestrated and ordained. So before we get too caught up in the rising, before we start talking too much about the victory, before we start talking about that empty tomb, let's talk about that journey that made the resurrection possible. Let's step into the final hours of Jesus' life, because when you see the timeline of his actual sacrifice, you'll understand the timeline of your own transformation. See, on that Thursday, Jesus knew the time was near, and he was preparing himself for death. He shared his last supper with his disciples. He washed their feet, and he gave them his final teachings. He went down to the Garden of Gethsemane, and he prayed and surrendered, and he cried out, "Not my will, but your will be done." In other words, Jesus was saying, I don't want to suffer. I don't want to feel it, but I'll do whatever you want me to do. He obeyed the will of God, and he chose God's plan over his own feelings. How many witnesses do I have in the building today that can relate to that part of the story? As we know, Judas betrayed Jesus. And after Judas kissed him, Jesus was arrested, and he endured 6 different trials. 3 Jewish, 3 Roman. At that illegal nighttime trial, he was charged with blasphemy for claiming to be the Son of God. How many knew who you were? People didn't believe it, so they tried to put doubt in everybody else's mind. Peter denied knowing him 3 times. Early Friday morning, first, Jesus stood before Pilate, facing charges for inciting rebellion, forbidding to pay taxes, and claiming to be a king. Pilate found no fault. And because Jesus was from Galilee, and Pilate was trying to avoid the unnecessary responsibility of condemning Jesus, Pilate sent him to stand before Herod. Herod was in charge of the Galilean jurisdiction. Herod questioned Jesus about his teachings, and he wanted to see Jesus perform a miracle. But Jesus never said a word. When you know who you are, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. Jesus refused to speak, so Herod mocked him. He dressed him in a royal robe and sent him back to Pilate. After he declared not guilty of any crime, Pilate said 3 times, I find no fault in him. But because of the political pressure, and because God required it, Jesus was sentenced, while a violent murderer was released and set free. Jesus was sentenced to death. He wasn't dying for his crimes. He had to die for yours and mine. The soldiers whipped him. They put a crown of thorns on his head, and they teased him and called him the King of the Jews. Jesus carried the cross a half a mile from Jerusalem to Golgotha Hill, also known as Calvary. The cross, it was so heavy, and Jesus stumbled, but Simon was forced to help him carry it. How many of you have carried crosses in your life and you stumble, and somebody stepped in right in the nick of time and helped you carry that weight so you wouldn't fall down and you wouldn't fall out. Somebody tell the Lord thank you. See, Jesus' cross represented our sin, our shame, our guilt, our punishment, everything that he dealt with and endured was for us. The women, yeah, we can be kind of emotional. Women, they wept for him. But Jesus said, with boldness and confidence, no one takes my life from me. I lay it down on my own accord. He wasn't trapped. He wasn't forced to carry that cross. Jesus chose to carry the cross so we could have peace. Jesus took the punishment that you deserved and carried the sins of this old world. Somebody tell the Lord thank you. Oh, and when he made it to Calvary, he was exhausted. He had been beaten and he was bleeding. He was offered wine and mixed with gall to numb the pain. Most of us, when we don't want to deal with the pain, we ask for pain medication. Am I right? Come on. Jesus turned it down because he wanted to face it and he wanted to endure it. He wanted to suffer, fully awake and fully aware. The soldiers, they stretched out his arms and they nailed his hands and his feet to the wooden cross. Nailed to the cross. He was lifted up between two criminals, one on the left and one on the right. And for 3 hours, from 12 to 3, darkness covered the land as a response to Jesus' suffering. At 3 p.m., Jesus cried, "It is finished," which also means the mission is complete. The sin is paid for. Prophecy has been fulfilled and the sacrifice has been accepted. It is finished was not a cry of defeat or weakness. It was a cry for victory. Somebody tell the Lord thank you. Jesus died and gave up his spirit by choice, not by chance. His death completed my salvation. And because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. He said it's finished, and Good Friday came along. Before sunset, Jesus' body was taken off the cross by Joseph and Nicodemus. They wrapped him in clean linen and placed him in a tomb with a stone sealing it closed. Guards were posted on the outside. It was a tragic day, but it was a good day because of what his death accomplished. It was a good day because Jesus made a choice to be crucified to save us from sin. It was a good day because Jesus' suffering brought our forgiveness. It was a good day because it showed us how much God truly loves us. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. It was a good day because the story didn't end on that Friday. Friday was a setup for what was about to take place on that Sunday. In John 2:19, Jesus said, "Destroy this temple, my body, and in 3 days I'm going to raise it up." And an angel came down, and there was an earthquake, and the stone was rolled away. Let's go, Tim. The women showed up, and the stone had already been moved. And angels were on the outside and on the inside of the tomb. The angels told the women, "He is not here, for he has risen," as he said. The resurrection was confirmed. He laid in that tomb Friday and Saturday. But on the third day, Easter Sunday, Resurrection Day, he got up. He got up with all power in his hand. He had to die before he could rise. It was necessary. And like Jesus, you have to know that your moments are not random. They are revelation. Your experience is not a tragedy. It is a strategy. Your resurrection is not a moment. It is a process. Before elevation comes your surrender. Before glory comes the grave. Jesus is alive and well. And because he lives, you can face tomorrow. Your cross may be heavy. You may be stuck. But because he lives, your life is worth the living. Your life is worth facing another day. Because he lives. Because he lives. Because he lives. You cannot rise holding on to what God is telling you to nail to the cross. Who am I talking to? Jesus wasn't just crucified, but he was buried. We're stuck because we crucified some things, but we never buried it. We let it die, but we didn't let it go. We want resurrection power, but we don't want to stand in resurrection posture. We want new life, but we don't want to surrender. We want elevation, but God, I don't want to be crucified. Where resurrection comes. My resurrection is in my surrender. My resurrection is in my crucifixion. My resurrection is in my burial. My resurrection is in my release. And I can't rise to be what God called me to be until I die. Until I die. Everything that I go through, everything that makes me cry, it's necessary, because no cross, no crown, no cross, no crown, no test, no testimony. I'm coming out. I'm about to get up out of here, but it's the third day. It's the third day. Some of y'all have been down since Good Friday. But it's the third day. The angels of the Lord have come down. Behold, there was a great earthquake. And the stone was rolled away. I don't know about you, but I've been down in this tomb for 2 days. But today, I claim my own victory. I claim my own breakthrough. I claim my own peace. I claim my own. I claim it. I'm getting up, and I ain't carrying this cross with me. God, I thank you. God, I thank you. It's the third day. He got up. He got up. Now you get up. Get up and come out. Get up and come out. Jesus walked out of the tomb. As believers in 2026, yeah, we can walk out of some things, but 9 times out of 10, we praise our way through. Somebody's going through some heavy stuff today. I dare you to give God your best praise and watch that stone